I'm teacher Natalie. Let's talk about rights and responsibilities in the workplace. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to understand the concepts of rights and responsibilities. Be familiar with the rights and responsibilities of workers and employers in the Philippines. Know how to apply one's rights and responsibilities in the workplace. Ang bawat karapatan ay may kaakibat na responsibilidad. What can you say about the proverb? Can you give an example of a right and responsibility? Yes, every right implies a responsibility. Your right to education comes with responsibility to study well. Your right to clean water comes with responsibility to take care of the environment. Today, we will talk about universal rights, one's personal rights, as well as the rights and responsibilities of employees as stated in the Labor Code of the Philippines. Let us start with the basic human rights. As a human being, you have a right to food, right to education, right to protection, right to healthcare, right to religion, right to vote, right to work. Now that we've been exploring rights and responsibilities, how will you define a right? How will you define responsibility? Right is anything that is due to a person by law or tradition. Responsibility is a duty of obligation, something of which one is accountable. Let us have an activity. In your screen, you will see the different rights. Then, you will have to provide what particular responsibilities you are expected to do. You are given a few seconds to answer. You have a right to vote. You have a right to primary education. You have a right to be paid fair wage for work completed. You have a right to work in a safe environment. Every right, there is a corresponding responsibility. It is our duty to respond fairly to the right that has been bestowed upon us. Now, for another activity, try to determine whether the following information is your right or your responsibility in the workplace. Receive fair pay at the correct time. Do all work in a safe manner and be mindful of others. Arrive on a time and stay until the workday has ended. Have time for regular breaks. Work in a safe workplace. Use all equipment safely. Handle with care the equipment and materials at the workplace. Return materials and/or equipment after use. Wear protective clothing, gear, or paraphernalia. Be trained in how to use equipment. Ask for help and learn from others. Be given clear information about the job and expectations. Have the right to equipment and materials to do the work properly. Have a positive attitude about work. Ask questions in a way that respects coworkers. Remember, rights are what you can expect your employer to provide. Responsibilities are what your employer can expect what you will do. Let us have an activity. Read each statement and state the personal agreement or disagreement. Write your answer on your answer sheet and compare your answers to what has been revealed after each item. Statement number 1. Young people under the age of 15 may work if they have their parents' permission. False. Young people under the age of 15 may not be employed, except when he works directly under the responsibility of his parents and guardians. The official employment age is 15 with some exceptions of children aged 15 to 18. It is stated in the Labor Code of the Philippines, Article 139, no child below 15 years of age shall be employed except when he works directly under the sole responsibility of his parents or guardian, and his employment does not in any way interfere with his schooling. Statement number 2. Employers may require its employees to work even during rest days. True. Under the law, you can be required to work under certain conditions. According to Article 92, when employer may require work on a rest day, the employer may require his employees to work on any day. A. In case of an actual or impending emergencies caused by serious accident, fire or flood, typhoon, earthquake, epidemic, or other disasters or calamity to prevent loss of life and property or imminent danger to public safety. B. In case of urgent work to be performed on a machinery, equipment, or installation to avoid serious loss which the employer would otherwise suffer. C. In the event of abnormal pressure of work due to special circumstances, where the employer cannot ordinarily be expected to resort to other measures to prevent loss or damage to perishable goods. Now, let us move on to our next topic, which is responsibilities of the employer and the worker. Here are the responsibilities of the employer. To make a work agreement with the employee, agreeing on the conditions, time, and place. To follow up with the employee on the agreed terms. To supervise and provide suitable conditions of work so workers have security, health, and dignity. To honor terms of payment. To safeguard standard staff and environment. To register and pay into Social Security for the employee. To take care of the well-being of the staff and qualified dependents. To agree on a performance contract. Responsibilities of the worker. To personally perform the work in time, place, and condition as agreed upon. To follow the instructions of the worker's boss. To avoid any issues or problems at workplace that will endanger the worker or his colleagues. To follow the rules at work. Now that we have already discussed our lessons, let us have an application of what have you learned. Given the different scenarios, analyze very carefully and answer the questions that follow. Write your answers on your answer sheet. Number 1. The scenario is all about gender-based violence or sexual harassment. Melanie has been hired to work as an office assistant for a new business in Zamboanga. After being on the job about a month, one day, her supervisor told her that she would spend the night with him. He would make sure she will be promoted. She said she was not interested, but he cornered her, twisted her arm behind her, and threatened to fire her if she didn't comply with his demands. Melanie was able to run away and tells her friends about the incident. They give her 2 suggestions. What is the issue? What do you think the Philippine law says about the type of harassment? If you were Melanie's friends, what advice will you give to Melanie? Are you aware of any groups or organizations that provide services to women who have been harassed? Number 2 is all about health and safety at work. Manny recently started working for a construction company. His supervisor told him that because he was so smart and fit for the job, he did not need training in the use of the equipment. He would learn by doing instead. One day, he was trying to use a table saw that he had never used before. He cut himself badly on one of his hands and it began to bleed profusely, but he did not know where the first aid kit was. His co-workers did 2 things to help him. Question: what is the issue? What do you think Philippine law says about health and safety at work? If you were Manny, what steps should you have taken? If you were Manny's friends, what steps should you have taken? How can such a situation be prevented in the future? Scenario 3 is about time off from work. Betsy, a young single mother, had been working long hours at the restaurant. She hadn't had a day off in over a month and often worked 55 hours per week. One day, her child became very sick with dengue, so she called the restaurant to let them know she could not come to work. Her boss was annoyed, murmuring that she will look for someone more reliable than Betsy. Betsy became worried she was going to lose her job. She told her friends about her problems and her friends gave her 2 options. What do you think the Philippine law says about the number of work hours and time off? How should Betsy handle this situation? If you were Betsy's friends, what advice will you give to Betsy? Thank you very much for answering your activities. Once again, ang bawat karapatan ay may kakibat na responsibilidad.